Here.
No, I'm not a writer.
Okay.
And here we go. This is Mike Lodge. I am the business advisor, and I'm glad that you've joined me. I'm late in doing this. It is now currently about 4 p.m. in the afternoon, and it is about 83 degrees, and it feels good. I tell you, the wind is slightly blowing. You've got this nice warm air blowing, and it feels good after all this cold weather. After the winter, I tell you, it feels so good. So what am I talking about today? Well, I'm still talking about the budget for a little bit here. I am fed up with Biden, and I'm fed up with the Speaker of the House. And let me tell you the reason why, is that we seem to be playing political games here. And if it feels as though that no one is really serious about sitting down at the negotiating table and negotiating it. There are things that need to be negotiated. If you hear the wind chimes and everything and birds singing, it's because I've got both of my doors open of my office here. So you're going to hear outside noise. But listen, we have McCarthy. He has put together a plan. He wants to raise the debt ceiling by $1.5 trillion. I don't know why we're talking about raising it for $1.5 trillion. Well, the reason why is because that debt ceiling is to pay for everything that the Democrats passed in these three monstrous bills that we had in 2022 that went through. That's a lot of money that was spent. So now they have to cover it, because it's trillions of dollars of expenses that needs to be financed. You know where the debt ceiling is. I mean, they raise it because they need to fund it. They need to not fund it through taxation. Well, some of it's through taxation, but a lot of it's they go out and borrow. They borrow to pay for those things. And it's a waste of time, because we keep raising it and raising it. I understand the reason why the Speaker of the House is doing it, because he needs to sit down. He wants to force the president to sit down and say, okay, listen, we have something on the table. Let's negotiate it. But then when you listen to the president, he says, I'm not going to negotiate. Look at what they did. McCarthy's not serious. He says, this is not for America. Well, when Biden says that, what he's really saying is, oh my gosh, the Democrats are trying to take away my spending. And he wants to spend. He thinks he's got an open credit card to keep spending and spending and spending, because the government can print the checks. Well, unfortunately, that's not how we're going to go along with this anymore. Because if we keep printing and we keep going into debt and we keep spending money and we keep wasting money, I mean, that's a bad situation. I read an article this morning. Let me see if I can find it for you. Just one moment. It says that they have wasted, or they could not find or trace about, I believe it was about $1.2 trillion that they could not find, they could not account for. And those things go for Medicare, Medicaid, PPP loans, unemployment. They have all this money in these 5 categories that they cannot find the money for. They've wasted it. The other one is the child tax credit, where people have taken the money and they've run, but they don't know who they gave it to. So it's like a complete mess of how the government has handled this spending situation. And so that creates another problem, because then that raises the debt and the debt ceiling and all of these expenses from all of these bills that the Democrats have passed makes us have to pay for it because now they've got to go out and get funding for it. They got to go out and get loans for it. We're in a bad situation here. It's not where we should be. This is a nation in which we have got a real problem of spending. My gosh, you know how many times I've given you a lecture on U.S. spending and U.S. savings? Well, now I'm giving the government the same lecture. But the issue is this. If the president doesn't want to sit down, if he doesn't want to sit down and negotiate, if he doesn't want to be serious about the needs of the American budget and the finance system, and the overspending, if he doesn't want to sit down and cut some fat, and there's a lot of fat in the U.S. budget, and so that we can get to a real number of what the debt ceiling should be, I prefer that's zero, but what can I do? I'm not in those politicians' minds when I come to talk to you about it. But I think we're at the point now, if the president is not serious about sitting down, then we just shut the government down. Take the keys, lock it up, until the president's ready to sit down and talk about this very necessity of having a budget and having a debt ceiling that's reasonable. So I'm hoping that Biden gets some brains here and start sitting down. Listen, if you're going to be a leader, you have to sit down and negotiate. That is just one of the things that you have to do when you're leading. You have to negotiate with your employees. You have to negotiate with your contractors. You have to negotiate with the leasing and the tenants and everything. There's a whole gamut of negotiations that you've got to do when you are leading. But when you don't lead, and if you refuse to negotiate, then that means that your mind is closed and you don't want to think about anything because your way is the right way. That's exactly where Biden is at the moment. He thinks his way is the right way. All of his spending has not created inflation. That's in his mind. He's convinced himself of it. And we have inflation. And we have a recession. And we have layoffs. And massive amounts of layoffs. And these layoffs that we're having are not the $15 an hour. They are the $100,000, $200,000 area. So if we don't attack this problem very quickly and start thinking about exactly, okay, what do we do to take back control over the financial well-being of America? Our dollar is being eaten alive because of foreign governments that want to get to us. And so now it's a national security issue. This budget, this debt ceiling is a national security issue, and the president doesn't seem to want to do anything about it. That's a bad situation. So listen, get on your phones, get on your emails, get on your faxes, however you contact your government, your congressional rep and your Senate, and even into the White House. Send it into him and say, listen, sit down and negotiate. Be a leader. Be a big boy. Or, and there's an or in this, we shut the government down. And I think Americans say, you know what? If they're going to be that stupid, shut it down. Let them do it. Just shut it down. Because obviously we have a president that does not want to sit down and negotiate. Shut it down. The other thing I want to talk about today is if you look at California, they've lost 500,000 people that have moved out of the state of California in the last 2 years. They're gone, and they keep moving out every single day. I moved out. And the reason why I moved out, because I saw the crime getting bad. I saw the housing prices zooming up that I could never afford to live there again. Taxes were going up, and they were taxing everything. And by the way, the legislature is sitting down and taxing again. They're considering a new tax on SUVs. So if you drive an SUV, you're going to get a charge when you go to the DMV. They're trying to get rid of you. They're trying to get rid of all of these cars and everything else. So understand why people want to move out of California. It's no longer the state of prosperity. It's a state of where people are moving out because they can spend their money better in other places. I'm in South Carolina. The cost of living here is great. I remember at my home up in the hills of Los Angeles, the utility bill was $900. $900. My utility bill, I just got my utility bill here, it's $110. In Florida, my utility bill was $400. So I went from 9 to 4 to 1. So understand why people move out of these states when they become so they're just states that you can no longer live in. I mean, there's no bad thing about moving into a state where they want you, with lower cost of living. People are friendlier. Business is good. There's no crazy politicians. Well, there's a couple. But we don't have the crazy politicians as you have in Los Angeles, as you have in the state of California, I mean. Where you have a predominantly Democratic legislature both the Assembly and the Senate and the governor and the lieutenant governor. Everyone is a Democrat there. And so they go the socialist way. They go the way that Democrats are going nowadays. It's no longer about helping you guys. It's now about helping the government and making the government stronger, more profitable, getting more taxes, paying for more stuff. And at the same time, it's lining the pockets of all these politicians. The legislature in California is the most corrupt legislature in probably all of the United States. And listen, the lobbyists know how to put money into those pockets of those legislatures. It's a sad situation, but it's sad. Listen, I was born there. That's my home state. But now I am a California refugee in the state of South Carolina. Listen, get on your phones, emails, faxes, phone calls. Start yelling at your at your senators and your members of Congress and tell them, get on the ball, get a budget passed, get a debt ceiling that is reasonable and in line, and force the president to do something. Because the president is just sitting there, he's off, and he's in Ireland, and he's all kinds of places. But he's not where the people are, where the American people are. And his ears have gone deaf to the American people. His only ears are to politicians. Let's take a deep breath there. And let's hope that we can get this country back onto the right road. Because right now, we're off on a bumpy, dirt old road. And it doesn't feel good. Listen, if you want to have a conversation with me in consultation and in private, you can book me online, which is www.lodge-co.com. And if you have a business question you want to send to me, send it to thebusinessadvisor at gmail.com. Z as in zebra. Remember that. Okay, you guys. I'm sorry I'm late, but now I gotta go. Love you guys. Bye-bye.